I evicted my sister-in-law after she left Biohazards in my home, leading to family conflicts. Now my husband is stuck outside with her. My spouse has a sister and 2 brothers. I'm not really fond of his sister, Betty, and her spouse. After losing their house, they have recently been couch surfing. This may have been prevented had they behaved sensibly. They initially remained with my in-laws, but they were asked to leave because of their unruly kids, citing my father-in-law's diabetes. After their elder children moved out, they then moved in with my husband's older brother and his wife, who had 2 extra rooms. However, they were forced to leave after 3 weeks due to planned renovations. They helped out around the house and generally kept things clean, so the older brother and his wife were pleased with them. The younger brother then moved in with them. Betty assisted and managed her kids while they were there, since her mother was coming to help with the baby. The youngest brother's wife, who was quite proud of her home and had just given birth, let them remain for a while. Finally, my husband agreed to take them after being emotionally coerced. I only agreed if they kept the house tidy, especially because they had previously been untidy in my house. For instance, they would throw trash next to the trash can, but not inside, frequently leaving behind dried and odorous food remnants. Even worse, instead of putting her old sanitary towels into the bathroom bins, Betty would frequently leave them on top of it. I asked the youngest brother's wife about their neatness before they moved in. According to her, everything was maintained tidy and orderly, so they had no complaints. But during family get-togethers over the holidays, I had personally witnessed how they behaved differently in other households than mine. I made my youngest brother and my parents-in-law witnesses to their pledge to help out around the house and to keep it as tidy as they found it. In order to maintain accountability, they would have to depart right away if they disobeyed these regulations. Betty consented, but retorted mockingly, "As you wish, Your Highness." It was all right for the first 5 days. Then this morning I discovered a used, incorrectly wrapped sanitary towel on top of the trash can. Her daughter, who was staying in my daughter's room, placed a used tampon on the sink and smashed the shampoo and conditioner in the bathroom. Additionally, because Betty's husband had left for work early, the kitchen was in disarray. I couldn't risk my inquisitive toddler picking up a bloody sanitary towel. I knocked on the door of the guest room and instructed her to gather her belongings and go. With an indignant expression, she asserted her innocence and said I could throw it away if it bothered me. It was just some blood. The final straw was that after grabbing her luggage, I began packing her things. She refused to leave the house at first, claiming that she didn't follow my instructions and that she was going to wait for her brother. I informed her that I also own this house. A few hours ago, I dropped her off at my in-laws with her youngest children. Her husband made a scene when I wouldn't let him in after he returned from work. He cited my in-laws, but because of Phil's sickness, they don't want them there. Within 20 minutes after my husband got home from work, my in-laws and her family were in our driveway. They are still arguing about being allowed inside while standing outside. I warned my husband that he was not welcome in our house either if he backed down, and I wouldn't open the door. First update, a little update. My driveway appeared to be the scene of a Mexican standoff yesterday. I declined to walk out and participate in the conversation. While they were out there for 2 whole hours, they were gone. They are at my in-laws right now, but they said they would come back tomorrow when everyone would be home from work to talk about the situation and come up with a practical answer. That's what my hubby told me anyway. I informed my husband that I would not have them in my home as soon as he entered. Additionally, he cleaned up after them when I instructed him to. He asked me why I made him do it after he had cleaned up. I informed him that, in contrast to him, I was not biologically linked to other people and that I was equally repulsed by their bodily fluids. I went on to say that he could only imagine how awful I used to feel when I had to clean up after them if he thought it was dirty. He bleached the sink 3 times and said he would buy a new bin. We have a plan for tomorrow that states they will never move in with us. He left the task of cleaning up the shampoo and conditioner mess in the bathroom to his niece. Our daughter is welcome to use our shower in the meanwhile. Tomorrow we'll see how this plays out. Second update. It was a long day with my in-laws yesterday. We left early in order to finish it. A guilt trip was the first thing my in-laws did. They first said they would house them until they found a place, but it wouldn't be good for Phil's health because of his diabetes. In order for them to stay with them because they have extra bedrooms, I said them to advise their daughter to discipline her kids so they wouldn't run around like monkeys. Betty wasn't pleased about that. She launched into a diatribe, accusing me of trying to sour relations between her and her brother and claiming that I had always envied her. I told her that since she didn't like her own life, it was unrealistic for me to be envious of hers. Since my husband never gets involved in my family's affairs, she wondered whether he would mind if I told him what to do with his family. She instructed him to establish the rule and let me know that his sister and her family would remain for however long it took them to relocate. That was unacceptable to my hubby. He informed her that it was a 2 yes, 1 no situation and that the house belonged to me equally to his. Even though I was now a stay-at-home wife, I still made contributions to the house's purchase when I was employed. His mother-in-law was staying because of the baby, so the younger brother and his wife indicated they wouldn't be able to host them. Renovations were mentioned by the older ones. The wives of the older and younger brothers claimed that I was making this up, saying that she always kept their home in her own tidy. I was said to accept it and behave like family. Since I saw what I saw and her brother witnessed it and had to clean it up, I informed them I wasn't there to debate about her cleanliness. He attested to the fact that he did and that I wasn't lying. After making a mistake, my sister-in-law asked her brother, "Why did you clean it up? Because I was supposed to clean it up." She said either she knows she has the entire family in her pocket or she is the most stupid person alive to acknowledge that. In any event, I made it plain that she would not be staying with me and that because she got along much better with the other members of the family, they would find a solution on their own. My niece refused to clean up the leftover mess when my husband told her that she was old enough to do so. "She's your niece, but my daughter? Don't you dare tell her what to do," her father chimed in, causing a heated argument that they both had to end. I explained to her and her husband that my husband and I were simply there to collect money for the trash we had to discard because she was scattering biohazards all over the house. "It would never happen," she replied, laughing in my face. "All right," I said. It happened so fast that day that I still had her daughter's, her husband's, and her 2 younger children's tablets, along with some of her jewelry and a few other items. "I hope you understand that when I threw you out, I didn't pack all your possessions." I assured her that everything would be sold to cover my expenses. She was shouting loudly about what she would do to me if I dared to sell anything. As we were vying my back, my hubby said me to sell anything I needed to. They continued to text my husband later, pleading with him to do them a favor by putting up with her for a few months until she recovered. I informed him that I would never consent to allowing her, her slobby husband, and her swarm of kids to return. They also tried to guilt me about his niece's education by texting me, saying that if they find a rental outside of the school zone, she could have to start at another school because they don't have a place to remain near her school. "Tough luck," I responded back, then blocked them. Although my husband won't block his parents, he was upset with his brothers for accusing him of being self-centered for not taking them in when they were going through a difficult time. Although they acknowledged that it was disgusting, they justified her actions by speculating that I might have done something to make it worse. Finally, the wife of the oldest brother sent a voicemail to my husband's WhatsApp using her husband's phone. She said, "I'm not kidding. You're still fine to watch her 6-year-old on Tuesdays and Wednesdays as usual, aren't you?" I instructed him to determine the response to that inquiry. A new family was moving into the area, so I had to stay a little while longer after I went to pick up my kids. We held a brief meet and greet since the parents wanted to get to know the parents of their kids' classmates. Since I often pick up my husband's older brother's 6-year-old daughter on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, the office brought her to me. Her instructor, assuming I was late because of the meeting with the new parents, instructed an office administrator to bring her to me when she saw me waiting in the hallway. I informed them that on Tuesdays and Wednesdays I was no longer in charge of her. They must have contacted her mother when they brought her back to the office. My husband informed me when I got home from the meet and greet that his parents had called and expressed their disapproval of me vying their grandchild. Additionally, they placed his older brother's wife on the phone, and she and my husband got into a heated argument. He spoke with the sister-in-law I expelled as well. In the end, my husband informed his parents that they would not be allowed to speak to him for a week, and that he would only unblock them if they sincerely apologized to him and to me. After I made it apparent that I would no longer offer free vycs, he clarified that it was the parents' responsibility to arrange for pickup for the time being. The sister-in-law who I expelled is still vying with her parents. My in-laws are hosting her spouse, 2 of her elder children, and her younger 2. The 2 younger ones and the other 2 older ones are dispersed throughout the other 2 homes. They did, however, imply that it would be a short-term arrangement because she had assured them that she would soon convince her brother to change his ways. I believe I have a long journey ahead of me. The wife of the oldest brother was present when I dropped off my kids at school on Friday. She trailed after me. She confronted me in the store parking lot when I paused to pick up some products. I refused to accept her sincere apologies and desire to make things right. She was desperate, claiming that since she is the lead and must oversee, she would lose the project if she missed one more week of overtime. She had to pick up her 6-year-old since her husband was unable to adjust his schedule. She argued that resenting her 6-year-old over a casual remark was not justified. Her child blamed me for the biohazards left in my house, so I told her that wasn't a casual remark. She stated that she hoped to diffuse the tension and that all she wanted was for everyone to get along. I suggested that she ask Betty for assistance, but she said that Betty had declined since she was barely able to manage her 3 children under the age of 7. In order to free up time and energy to pick up the kids, I said her to ask the youngest wife, who has her mother residing with her. She claimed that rather than assisting with her 6-year-old, the youngest wife preferred to focus on the early recollections of her own child. I said her to accept it and work with the people she regarded as family to find a solution. I then proceeded with my shopping. She was there once again when I went to pick up my child in the afternoon. She accompanied me home. Once we exited the pickup line, I parallel parked in my driveway to keep her from parking there and bothering me at my door. In order to transfer the car, I texted my husband to ask him to let me know when he would be home. She parked on the side road and came to my house despite being unable to find a spot. I refused to open the door when she rang the bell. She went around the back and knocked on my back door, telling me that since we were family, I couldn't avoid her forever. Through the glass, I threatened to contact the police for harassment if she didn't leave. Then she went off. My mother-in-law and father-in-law were there when I went to answer our doorbell in the evening. I let them in because they wanted to apologize and come inside. The first thing they told us was how much the past 3 days had changed them. They then apologized and requested me to return to my regular self. According to my mother-in-law, because life is full of ups and downs, you may have to tolerate negativity from family members at times. It can't be all sunshine and roses all the time. They tried to guilt-trip me into helping out with the 6-year-old by pointing out that her mother and I had previously been on good terms. So my husband stopped his mother and said, "Then why do we, critical backstories and lemon, have to be the only ones on the receiving end of the negativity? When will you hold my sister and the others accountable for their behavior?" Or, when she chose her side, I added, she forfeited that privy leg, given that she might lose her work. They wondered if I would be able to sleep at night. When my husband mentioned how much I had done for her without receiving payment, I said yes. They retorted that it shouldn't matter if I had another child who was already potty trained because I was already at home. Since I had given up a lot for their kid over the years, I assured them that it did make a difference. I added that they had no right to force me to assist if they couldn't persuade the younger brother's wife to do so. When I would return the items I was holding hostage was what they wanted to know. My spouse interrupted, claiming that he was the one holding them captive and that they would be given back after his sister covered the costs. According to my father-in-law, Betty would be justified in informing the police about the theft. In response, my spouse said she can do as she pleases. My spouse then disclosed something that I was unaware of. He instructed them to inform his sister that he had canceled the hotel and all of the summer holiday plans, including his niece's horseback riding. He clarified that he didn't feel compelled to cover Betty's expenses if her father may ask him, "Who do you think you are to boss my daughter around?" My spouse made the decision to stop funding because their father was uncertain about the uncle-niece relationship and his authority to teach her responsibility. This disturbed my mother-in-law. He acknowledged that he had canceled it when she remarked, "You haven't done that, have you? I thought we would all have a great vacation." I refused to accept their attempts at justification, saying that Betty had a lot on her plate with the house loss and young children. I informed them that she had made bad decisions that led to her current predicament and that having a 9th kid would not make things better. According to my mother-in-law, her body, her choices, means that every woman should make her own decisions regarding family planning, and I shouldn't tell Betty what she should or shouldn't do. She argued it was different, claiming she wasn't telling me to have more or fewer children since she liked grandchildren. The more, the better. I responded, "Like you're dictating to me right now by weaseling your way into our home under the guise of an apology?" I said to her, You can't expect me to look after other people's children either. The less stress I have, the merrier I am. That also falls under my body, my choice. We had decided to be less friendly over a little issue, so they turned to my husband and asked whether he was truly putting them through all of this. He replied, "Scrubbing down the 2 bathrooms after my niece and sister wasn't exactly the highlight of my life. We kindly requested them to leave since they were unable to stop apologizing and complaining about us not going with them for the family holiday and about canceling Betty's and her family's vacation, which they said destroyed the atmosphere for everyone." The doorbell kept ringing, and there was frantic hammering on our door on Saturday early, waking us up. Betty and her oldest son were there. My spouse assured me that he would take care of it. She attempted to push through as he opened the door, but my husband stopped her. She was yelling and claiming to be able to knock some sense into me by coming inside to put things in perspective. I am a year and a few months older than her, and she is little over 2 years older than my husband. She shoved Dula 300 in his face and asked, "Is she happy now, that cradle-snatching exploitive?" She continued to abuse me, calling me a jealous expletive and saying that I had ruined their family by controlling him. She went on to say that she expected him to promptly reschedule the vacation and activate now that she had given the money back. My spouse said that even if hell froze over, it wouldn't occur. While he went to get something, he instructed her to wait outside. He entered, put their things in a bag, and left out one of the tablets he had purchased and was still paying for with insurance. He gave her the bag after opening the door. She started swearing and urged him to mature. She threatened to file a report against him for causing damage to her possessions. He calmly retorted that everything was captured on camera and cautioned her against taking legal action because her children could hardly afford a lawyer, much less a place to live. He warned her not to set foot on our land ever again before slamming the door in her face. Without any further drama, she departed. My mother-in-law and father-in-law later called us and tried to talk sense into our heads. I had agreed with my husband to allow them to see our kids as long as they met certain requirements. Even though I'm not a lawyer, I informed them that their rights were restricted in our state when they claimed to have grandparent rights. They had to respect me and my family if they wanted to have a relationship with their grandchildren. We don't currently communicate with the other brothers, their spouses, Betty, or her immediate relatives. To convey a message, we momentarily unblock them before blocking them once more. We don't mind at all if the older brother's kids wish to get in touch with us or sit. The 6-year-old can only come here on weekends when we have time to host them, and only if her elder siblings are present to watch over her. There won't be any more surprise sits. We will also block their parents if they call us using those numbers. The wife of the older brother called me while I was messaging and offered to pay me $7.50 per hour for the days I watched her 6-year-old. She texted me to sweeten the bargain, offering to pay me for the previous 3 months, but I said no thank you. I'll pass on that wonderful opportunity. Still, I declined. Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so and hit the notification bell to stay updated with more shocking real-life stories happening around you.